Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's rendition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. And I've already got people joining the show. So we're going to do what we do best, and we're going to say hello to you nice folks who have joined us on this fine Sunday and this edition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. So let's see here. Who do we have joining us tonight? Mary Boysworth, thank you for joining us. Danielle Munoz, thank you, Danielle, for joining us. Mr. Justin Kinney, thank you for joining us tonight. Sherry Thomas, thank you for joining us. Corliss Turner of Voices for Rockdale, thank you for joining us tonight. Cheryl Moulton, thanks for joining us tonight, Cheryl. And Clayton Orwig, that's who we have so far this evening joining us on this week's rendition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. So it is great to have each and every one of you on the show tonight. So I want to start off by talking about this past Friday. So I attempted to go to the Heritage and Salem High School football game. So I got over there nice and early, was chatting with all the administrators and different folks, and um, it came a little rain shower before the game. Then the rain stopped, and then they kicked off. As they kicked off and the ball was fielded, the horn rang. There was a lightning strike within 10 miles, and the game was put on delay due to inclement weather, the lightning actually. So we sat there for, about another hour and a half, and they finally postponed the game. Uh, After it went past 9 o'clock, that it wouldn't be started because of the lightning in the area. And I do not know what day they're going to do a reschedule, but I do know the game will be rescheduled. And I think they told me they believe sometime this week, maybe Tuesday. So we'll see what happens with that and what goes on with rescheduling that game. But security was set up. It was everything was running smoothly. They had the metal detectors in full force, plenty of security, plenty of school personnel security there, plenty of deputies there. So, like I said, it was they were set and ready for a night of football and fun community involvement, and Mother Nature got the best of us. So that happens sometimes. I've had a few more people joining the show. Let me say hello to those folks. So Lee Wright, thanks for joining. Dan Burks, good friend Dan. Not seen Dan in a little bit. Thanks for joining the show, Dan. And Ben Garcia, that's Ben and Cheryl here tonight. So Ben and Cheryl Garcia, thank you for joining the show this evening and being loyal guests to the show. The Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. So, guys, yeah, that was one thing we attempted to do was go see that game, and was really disappointed that we weren't able to see it. But the safety of the community and the safety of the participants come first in all of that. So the right thing was done. Postponing that game due to lightning. So glad everybody was on the ball, watching what was going on. Charlotte Gellert, thank you for joining the show tonight. And y'all hear Molly Lou in the background. She's not a happy camper. I think she hears me in the studio here. Nobody else is in the house but the dogs tonight. So Molly's saying, I don't like it. You're in there talking and I can't see you. So 1 second. Molly, you need to calm down while we're doing the show. I know you like the audience too, but you need to calm down. We'll see what goes on with you later on. But yeah, so this week in Rockdale, Alex, thanks for joining tonight. George Kelichek, thanks for joining tonight. We got the delayed entry into the room tonight, so thank you guys for joining tonight. I think Molly is mad that they canceled the game. Yeah, I think she was eager for the ball game to happen. It was an exciting news week. Hi, Molly. So yeah, I want to go into one thing of I think interesting local news, and that's the city of Conyers and the mayor's race. So I think a lot of you see that Brad Smith and Connie Osselbrook. Brad, a longtime businessman, he owns the awards shop in right there in Old Town Conyers, and you have Connie Osselbrook, who is a current a city council woman in the city of Conyers. Conyers. Brad served 2 terms on the Rockdale County Board of Education, so he is no stranger to Rockdale County and Rockdale County elections. So we have 2 candidates vying for the mayor's position this year, and I think that's going to be an interesting race. We'll see if those candidates want to come on the show. If they do, we'll have them on the show and talk about what they think their vision for the city of Conyers is like. And just us guys who live, us people who live in rural Rockdale, we can't vote in that city election, but that city election is very, very important to Rockdale County. Rockdale County only has 1 municipality within the boundaries of the county, and the majority of the business that is in this county is within the city limits. So it is a very important thing that goes on with these city elections because Conyers is a big economic driver for the county. The majority of the people don't live in the city as it might have been 20, 30 years ago. The majority of the people do live in rural Rockdale now, but but the majority of the business district is within the city limits of Conyers. So it is very important, those elections. Brad does Angel Flights. His parents live in Cheryl's neighborhood. He is Rockdale Ray citizen. Yep. So Brad is like I said, he's a longtime Rockdale citizen. Brad served in the Air Force himself, and like I said, it's going to be an interesting race. Connie is a longtime community advocate, and she has served, I think, at least 3 terms on the city council. So it's going to be interesting as we see that race develop, and I think we should all pay attention and see what goes on, because like I said, the city of Conyers, those are very important to the rest of us, what goes on there. Evening, Miss Russo. Nice to have Miss Russo joining us tonight on the show. As a loyal fan, and always has great comments and suggestions. Love to have her input tonight on things as well. Ruth Ann Kelvy, nice to have you join us tonight, Ruth Ann Kelvy, on this Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. So yeah, I mean, if any of you guys would like to post some comments or say something about the city election, then I would love to entertain them. So Cheryl puts on there, Connie is another great candidate. So like I said, I think that race is going to be a very interesting race. It'll be interesting to see the development there, and we'll see what goes on. So also yesterday, Saturday, Representative Taylor had her community meeting, as she does monthly, and it was about safety and such. So she had a representative of the Sheriff's Department, representative of City Police, and a representative of the Rockdale County School Board. She had the Director of Safety for the Rockdale County School System, Darren Green. She had the sheriff was there, and then a lieutenant with the police department was also there, and then Anthony for Conyers. And Mr. Pacheco, if you might answer this in the chat, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe anybody else qualified against you. Am I correct about that? If you just comment in the chat and let us know, you are running unopposed for that council seat. Is that correct? Just answer me in the chat, yay or nay, because I think I know as Friday morning, I didn't think you had any opposition, and I don't know if anybody uh, filed later that day or not. If you could just let us know if you are unopposed in that race, it'll clarify something for myself and the rest of the viewers. But no, it was an interesting little meeting yesterday. Just those town halls that Representative Taylor Harry have are very informative, and I think Sheriff Levitt brought some very interesting points as he was talking about scams and the type of scams that are pulled on different people, not only senior citizens, but uh, uh, but everybody, but the most vulnerable in our community are the seniors. But still love to speak to anyone in the community. So I'm assuming that. Oh yes, that is correct. Yeah, Anthony. Yes, and there's nothing wrong with running unopposed. I just wanted to make sure so my next comment would be correct. So Anthony, as long as he stays qualified, decides he wants to continue to run, will run unopposed, and in November will be elected to that city council seat. So, Anthony, just keep it between the lines, keep it straight and narrow, and you've nothing unforeseen. You should be taking that city council seat, and yes, and keep that attitude about wanting to speak to people in the community and speak to people and hear their concerns, and always remember it's not your seat that you're going to hold, it's their seat. Same thing with the seat that I hold at the Board of Education. It's not my seat. It's a seat that I am holding for the citizens who put me there. And it's the same as any other elected official. And unfortunately, elected officials sometimes forget that, right? They forget that it's not their seat. It's the people's seat. I think, sometimes the people remind elected officials strong and loud about that when they tell you you can't have that seat anymore. We're putting somebody else in it, and I think we just all of us who hold seats that the people allow us to need to remember that these seats are the people's seat and they have put us there to represent them. Just wanted to add that commentary real quickly to that statement. But yeah, so like I said, that in that the sheriff yesterday, talked about the scams and just the phone calls that people get, and and not only phone calls but texting. That you'll get text people wanting your information, saying that that your license is going to be suspended, that you owe a toll fee. You get the phone calls saying it's the IRS, a loved one's in jail, you need to post their bond immediately, and that's the things that we're looking at. So we've got to all be very cautious of these scammers and them getting a hold of your personal information, your banking information, your social security information, your tax information. So like I said, and the sheriff gave some very sound advice yesterday. If somebody claiming to be from one of these organizations calls you, then you know what? Call that organization. Don't trust that person is from that organization, but call that organization directly. Reach out to that organization. And like you said, there may be a wait time, but call that organization and confirm. Because I'm going to tell you, if one of these, the sheriff's department, he point blank said this. Sheriff Levitt said this yesterday. The sheriff department is not going to call you and ask you for money to bail somebody out. They're not going to do that. The sheriff's department is not going to call you and ask you about paying fines. They're not going to do that. So just remember, if someone is claiming, and they will actually get the identities of real police officers and court officials and call you and impersonate those individuals in an attempt to scam you. So you may recognize the name of an individual that they're impersonating, but it's not that individual. So remember, just reach out to the organization, reach out to the entity, verify what's going on, verify that it's a scam, and then report it to the sheriff's department that it is a scam. So that's something that was very important that was gone over. And then director of the Rockdale County School Systems Security, Darren Green, he went over security and heightening procedures that the school district has taken over the last few years to strengthen the security in the schools, with the clear backpacks, with the weapon detection systems, the open gate weapon detection systems, which are now deployed at all Rockdale County public schools. The pouches for the distraction-free school zone, because the phones that the kids have are used to coordinate stuff that goes on. And it was like, the sheriff and Director Green said that most of the things that occur in the school start outside the school. There are things that come from the outside. They discussed the upbeat and the gummies and those type of things that are infiltrating the school system, and the children are being exposed to. So we've got to realize that that we've got to be very cautious about what's going on out there. When we discussed some of the security procedures yesterday, Director Green mentioned the Yondr patches, and he meant the Yondr pouches. I mean, for the cell phone securing them, and then he mentioned the weapon detectors. And then one of the citizens raised concern about tax dollars and that being an additional cost. And I was there, and I did mention that I did vote on those two topics. Again, okay, I'm going to make my disclaimer. I am not speaking on behalf of the school board or the school district at this time. I am speaking as an individual and an individual school board member of my personal opinion and how I personally, and what my personal thought was about the vote that I cast. So when I cast to approve my vote to purchase the metal detectors or weapon detection systems, those purchases were coming from SPLOST dollars. So that purchase in no way would increase the M&O, and it would not increase your tax burden on property taxes, because that was coming from the 1 cent sales tax that funds the SPLOST. So, and then that was also the thing with the Yondr pouches. Those purchases were made by SPLOST, and again, that's a purchase that comes from the 1 cent sales tax that you, the voters, approved for the school system, and that again would not impact our maintenance and operation, and not cause a raise in the M&O. So those are things that we look at doing. So you just want to make sure we clarified that as that went down, just because there were citizens that were concerned that purchasing the enhancing the security and those dollars being sent were causing property taxes to increase, and you're rest assured that those purchases came from SPLOST dollars. Tina, I'm sure if they have two phones, there's two Yondr patches, and I think from my understanding, those pouches can hold quite a lot. I'm not certain if one can hold two phones or not. I may check into that this week, but they did purchase additional pouches for backup and such. So that's a good question. But from one of the things I understood, those pouches were quite roomy, and they may be able to even hold two phones. But that is something good question and something to check into. But yeah, that's an interesting uh, thought of what happens if they have multiple phones. You know, I hate having two phones, and I do have two phones because I have my personal phone, which I've merged personal work into one phone, and then I have the government phone. Um, but you know, it's diff. I mean, I really don't see a reason why kids need multiple phones. So, Alex, so the number I was given was that 80% have phones. Um, 80% of them have phones. That was the number that I was given. That 80% of middle schoolers have phones, and I think the elementary was much less. So that is a lot less that have that, but it's 80% of the middle school and high schoolers have telephones. So it's a very high number of students who do have the telephones. That's just wild as you think about that, right? Um, Danielle, there's policy in place that if the kids hide the phone and don't get the phone, don't turn it in, and then they they get caught, and they're eventually going to get caught. There is consequences for hiding the phone. Yeah, they. So I think they anticipated that first week or so that there was going to be some people saying they didn't have phones, and but I think that's all working out, and as they get busted for having them, then there are consequences for it, and then they go in the pouch. So that's the way that goes. I mean, be honest. They lie about it. They say they don't have it. Do you really think they're going to be able to keep it in that backpack and hide it the whole day? they're, they're gonna bring that thing out and get busted. That's unfortunately that's kids being kids. But yeah, that's crazy, right? So I was going to I usually don't talk about state issues, right? But I did want to mention something, a state issue tonight, um, because it's going to become an issue that is actually going to impact locally, right? So I think this week there are going to be some heavy discussions regarding eliminating the state income tax and what that will look like. Um, so, uh, uh, so Cheryl, just to let you know, um, there are guidelines built into the rule regarding medical conditions. So, if there are medical conditions that are involved, some students are allowed to keep the phone because of medical conditions. So that's just to let you know that is something um, that was built into the policy. That there are waivers and there are circumstances that the phone isn't taken. Justin, yeah, that's why a student has two phones. Exactly, Justin. So, Justin got a little braver, more brave with the comment than I was willing to throw out there. So, yes, Justin, there needs to be a question. Why do you have two phones? Right. So, yes, interesting thing. But what I was going to talk about is eliminating the state income tax. So, and what that looks like, right? So, um, and just to be honest, I have spoken with some other citizens, other people who belong to other school boards, uh, and and we have a meeting with some state legislators to discuss what it would look like to subsidize a portion of a school board's um, funding mechanism with a sales tax rather than hitting the property tax. Um, uh, Oh, smartwatches and tablets, and it's actually not just cell phones, Alex. It's any communication device. It's any electrical communication device has to be collected and put in the pouch. It is not just telephones. So they can't have their own laptop. If they would bring their own personal laptop, of course, that's not going to fit in the pouch, but that has to not be tablets, no, um, cell phones, no, watches, no, any, and headphones and the wireless earbuds, no. So it's distraction for free classroom. So it's none of that. Just to clarify that, make sure we're all on apples to apples there. But yeah, I'd like to get some comments from you guys about the state income tax, eliminating state income tax. And like I said, guys, anytime we eliminate a tax, it's not a true eliminating. Because if we eliminate the income tax, we're just going to have to find another revenue source to replace it. And that would be a consumption tax or a sales tax. So, and let's look at the property tax thing too. If we would somehow be able to not fund education solely through property tax, then it would still be another form of tax, and it would most likely end up being a consumption or sales tax that you would do that with. So what that would look like and how it would work would still something that would have to be worked out. But if Georgia decides to go toward a consumption sales tax and eliminate the income tax, I think it's something that needs to be looked at on the education side also, is what would it look like to reduce some of the taxes that are put on the property, and about half of that go toward a sales tax. So just thinking out loud, right? And Donald Ferguson, welcome to the show. Donald Ferguson was at the Board of Education meeting this past week. Nice to see him there, getting out there and seeing what's going on with the elected entities in Rockdale County, as the good sir will be running for state senator this year in Senate District 43. And I wish Mr. Ferguson nothing but the best as he throws his hat into that ring and attempts to become the senator representing Rockdale County, who actually lives in Rockdale County. So that's what I believe. So again, I've mentioned, so I have talked about the state income tax, and I've got no take. Okay, here we go. So eliminating the school portion of the property tax for those over 70 is most important to me. Like I said, what we've realistically got to do, and Corliss Turner and Voices for Rockdale, they've done excellent research with the tax office, and they've looked at the number of seniors that actually pay property tax in this county. And we see that we are a heavy residential property tax county. It's 67% residential tax, 37% commercial. So what we've got this heavy property tax that's residential, that it is difficult to eliminate that, Dan. I mean, when you look at the numbers, just eliminating it and not replacing it would be difficult. So and anytime that we've talked about this earlier, if you eliminate property taxes on one group of people, you're just shifting it to another group of people. So you have to figure out how to do that shift and who's going to pay and how it's going to be paid. Clayton, or you are correct. The states of Florida, Tennessee, uh, Texas do not have income tax, and when you do research on it, there are positives and there are negatives, just as anything has a positive and a negative. So I encourage everyone to do their research on the states who don't have. Now we got to look. Florida had never had the income tax, so but I think Tennessee is a state who had it and eliminated it, and uh, and had to work that system on how to do that. So and that's something Georgia would also have to do, is they'd have to figure out what percent of sales tax would have to be implemented to cover that income tax. And what I've been seeing is like $16.5 billion. So they'll have to see what does it look like, what percent of a tax are you going to have to add to make up that $16.5 billion dollars. And that's what you got to know. Alex comes from Europe, I think. Europe. Alex, does the Europeans pay high taxes? Correct? They have, because they have high fuel taxes, high other sales taxes there. Florida is considered getting rid of property taxes, but again, let's think about it. Though they're not going to get rid of the revenue, they're going to shift that revenue collection in another manner. And they do have a lot of tourism to offset, but you got to look, if they're going to eliminate that, the tourism is still an X dollar that you're getting in Florida right now. If you eliminate something, their plans are not to eliminate that revenue. They have an alternate plan on how to still collect that revenue, just from a different way. And it is most likely going to be a consumption tax, a sales tax. And Justin, they may increase taxes on hotels. They may increase taxes. So Ruko says in Finland, when you sell your property, you pay a 33% tax. So you get taxed on the sale. So like I said, our system, the way it's set up now, is that we are going to have to shift those dollars, because you've already have budgets and things in place, and you're that's right, Clayton. The budget isn't changing. It's just how you fund it. And as one of the things people promote in when they do the sales tax is the fact that then you control that. You don't have to make a lot of the extra purchases for that you're going to do sales, that they have the sales tax, that you're in control of the purchase. So that's one of the things that people that are advocates for a fair tax, as they call it, is a consumption tax, a sales tax, is that well, if you really don't want something and don't want to pay for it, then it makes you think harder about the purchases that you're going to make, knowing that you're going to pay those extra taxes on it. So and that's what I just want everyone to realize, right? And if Georgia eliminates the income tax, you're going to make the difference up in a sales tax, in a consumption tax. Yeah, Georgia, and I think Tennessee did a 7%, and I think Florida has a 7% sales tax. So I mean, so there's where you would see. I even heard mention of one of the states that doesn't have an income tax, has a 9% sales tax, right? So that's what you're looking at, guys. I mean, so if you do eliminate an income tax, then the sales tax is going to get larger. So so I think we all need to be um, upfront, honest, and open about what it looks like when we shift uh, the source of revenue, right? Because you're like Clayton said, the budget isn't changing, just how you fund it. Um, and and I think when people talk about how they fund it, and those who advocate for no income tax and advocate for the sales portion, they refer to that as a fair tax because it's a consumption tax, and you get the ability to decide one way. Right now, Kelly, the Rockdale County is 7%, and that is 4% from the state, and then you got 3 pennies tagged on. You have that's what I believe it is right now. Uh, so, but like I said, and in Florida and Tennessee, uh, in Florida and Tennessee, like I said, I think uh, Cheryl just put up just the state portion is 8%. So I think you would be looking at something similar like that. I think the Georgia portion of the tax would be 7 to 8%, right? So if we're at 7% sales tax right now, you'll probably look at adding at least 4 cents to that, making it 11 cents is what I personally think would happen. Because that's what I'm thinking. So if they take the position to up the sales tax, that's right. I mean, everybody's going to pay. I think we all got to realize you may not be paying it to the tax collector anymore, the county tax collector, but you're going to be paying it when you go to Kroger, when you go to Publix, when you go to Dollar General, when you go to BJ's, when you go to Longhorn, when you go to any of the restaurants, when you go to get any service done or whatever, then you're going to pay it there. You're going to, and online purchases. So I've spoken to people who are on the SPLOST committee, and they explained to me one of the reasons that the SPLOST had increased significantly over the last few years is they began to collect the online purchasing uh, 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 taxes also. So I mean, so it's this stuff is not cut and dry. There are consequences, and there's shift no matter how you look at it. I'm right now. I'm just bringing you guys information so that you know what this actually looks like, right? So that you have information about, because this is a big deal. This would be a very big deal with the state of Georgia eliminating income tax and going to a consumption sales tax. It would be a very big deal. And I want, you guys to understand that, right? So, I just think it's a conversation we all need to have, and we all need to be aware of, right? So, but I think, uh, I think it would take away that burden uh, somewhat of the income tax. And I really do I think we need to look at that also when it comes to property taxes, right? You may need to shift that to a consumption sales tax. I think that at the end of the day, that may be something we need to look at. It may make better sense to do it that way, and I think it's something we need to look at. So that's just my opinion about it, right? I mean, I think that is I think we need to think long and hard about it. We need to look at what's proposed to us from our legislators, and I think we need to think outside the box and it would pass the tax revenue burden on lower income families, which is contrary to why we voted for HB 581. So, I mean, guys, I think there are pluses and minuses, and I think we need to look at what it does. I do know I have spoken to members of the state legislature, and they continuously tell you that that they think that that continuing to fund education through property taxes is not a sustainable model. And when you say that, and then you have to fund education in another manner, then if that means that the state would come in and pick up more of the tab, then they're just going to have to collect money from some manner, or if you're going to collect it from a different manner, it's still going to be a tax, guys. So I think that's what we all got to look. There is no magic solution. It's somehow shifting the tax burden, right? And I think that's just what we need to realize. If we've all talked about it. When we try to make things fair, sometimes it may be more fair for others than some. Somebody always gets the short stick. I mean, would you guys agree with that, right? So I am actually looking at something right now, just real quick. Somebody sent me a text, and I was just looking. So that's just what it is. So Clayton. So and I also wanted to make sure, because you asked me to do something, I want to make sure that I gave the correct definition of something. So I went and I asked my AI to give me a good definition. Is a regressive tax requires low-income individuals to pay a larger percentage of their income than higher-income individuals, even if the dollar amount paid is the same. So that's what's considered that. That would be what exactly that says, right? So the way we do the income tax now is you're taxed on your income. If you're lower income, you pay lower taxes. But if no matter what your income is, everybody's going to pay 7%, and someone making $200,000 would more easily be able to afford the 7 or 8% versus someone making $25,000. That's that thing. But and then also that person that's making that $30,000, if you took away property taxes, wouldn't be having property taxes, and they would be paying this. And in my personal opinion, I think it's going to be a wash. You're going to pay the same amount of money, one end or the other, no matter which end it goes on, right? You're instead of paying it in property tax, you're going to be paying it in sales tax, and you're going to be paying it out over time instead of that one large bill in November. And a lot of times it's perception, and that's the same thing with the income tax, right? You're not going to get you're not going to get anything over or anything off instead of paying your income tax at this one time or those large lump sums taken out of your payroll. As you purchase, you're going to be purchasing and buying. Some people pay more, may pay less, but you're going to end up paying the piper at the end of the day, just in smaller installments that'll add up to the large amount. So Cheryl mentioned that we're, that with the rollback, somewhat of a decrease in the taxes, but with the stormwater. Now, you guys got to remember, if you remember that schedule that they put out several years ago, there was a schedule that showed you the increases for stormwater that was going to happen over time when they passed that resolution several years ago to up that stormwater and put it on in that tax bill and add it to your property tax collection. They had a plan at that point and a schedule as to how that was going to increase. So George has something that, which is, just throw this out here, right? 28 foreclosed properties will be sold at the courthouse steps on September the 2nd. So, I mean, and that's terrible. That's a terrible thing. So, Charlotte says, could the state add half a cent to the state sales tax to fund education? Then what about public safety? They could pass a constitutional amendment and add that and do that. And like I said, I think you have to look at, would that 0.5% be enough? What actually would it take to be able to fund education, right? And you have to look and see what is it actually going to take to fund education, right? What would it take, and what would that sales tax look like? So I think, like I said, it's not a simple answer. It's very complicated. And that's why I think that you need to look at it and study it. And, so Mary Boysworth makes a comment about stormwater rates are becoming as bad as DeKalb County, but theirs include trash pickup. So, remember a few years ago when we had TrashGate and they were going to include that, and then they had that grease thing they were going to give you a little bucket to put under your sink and catch your grease. And so, we already had TrashGate in Rockdale County, and I don't know if we want to go back into TrashGate again, and because that was going to add $50 a month or some sort of nonsense to everybody in the county for garbage. So I don't even know if we want to open that can of worms again. That was highly controversial back in the day. Justin says it's as simple as the sales tax is regressive. And Justin, that's what I'm going to tell you. I don't think we can just say it's that simple. It's not that simple. It's a very complicated situation when we're looking at this kind of thing. It is extremely complicated. About the dollars you need, shifting tax base, everything you do, it's not simple. It is very complicated. And that's why we all need to think about it. Mary said she was only comparing the cost. She likes her trash company. So, and I think that was part of the issue a few years ago is people liked their trash company and they liked the service they were getting, and they were going to be paying twice the amount of what they were paying, and feared they were going to be getting less the service because they questioned the ability of the county to perform as effectively as the private sector. And I think that was a big portion of that back in the day. So, I mean, that's it. So we've had some conversation tonight to open up the mind and let people think about what's going on and what we need to do and what we can do and how we can do it and how we don't do it. So I think we look at it and we see what happens. And I think we're in for an interesting couple of years here in Georgia. I think we're looking at maybe a paradigm switch in what goes on. But I think let's see what goes on here in Rockdale County in Georgia in the next few years and what goes on. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I have ranted and raved and talked long enough tonight, and my wife must be coming home because everybody's barking now. But I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight and allowing me to speak my mind and put some thoughts out there so that you guys could think about some things and understand that it's not as simple as one thinks it is. When people say they're going to make a decision and change the way something's done, there are always consequences. So let's just think about that. What are the consequences, and are you willing to accept the consequences of change? So that's all I've got to say tonight. And I thank each and every one of you for joining me this evening. Now, next week, I am not certain there will be a show on the holiday weekend. It's all going to depend on internet availability. So next Saturday, I will share a post letting you know if I have the capability to do a show or not. So until then, I'm going to schedule the show, but I will not know until next weekend whether I'm able to do the show or not. So thanks, guys. I look forward to till I see you all again. Good night and have a great week and a good holiday next weekend.